Authorities had ignored obvious signs of structural weakness. You can't live there anymore. He tragically took his own life. In Changsha, China, a homeowner made a shocking discovery. One of the main support beams in their apartment had been cut from the inside. The steel rebar, meant to hold the structure together, was sliced clean through. The developer behind the building, a major state-owned company. Soon, more homes were found with the same problem. And what did the developer and contractors have to say? It was so ridiculous, you'd think they were joking. On July 20th, 2025, a video surfaced on Douyin, posted by a user named Xing's mom. With tension and frustration in her voice, she said,
"This video will definitely be taken down very soon, and my account may disappear as well. So I suggest everyone record their screen, share, and save it."
In the video, she explained that the problem began on July 2nd. It started when one of her neighbors began an extensive renovation, removing the developer's original finishes. As the ceilings came down, a shocking discovery was made. The steel reinforcement bars in one of the load-bearing beams had been cut. Alarmed, the homeowner immediately contacted property management, and soon, photos of the damage spread through the residents' group chat. The response was quick. One resident with some expertise immediately warned, this beam should not have been tampered with. What followed was an even more disturbing revelation. It wasn't just one apartment. Soon, 2 units in Building X and 1 in Building Y were found with the same dangerous issue. In total, 96 of the 132 apartments in the complex had their load-bearing beams cut, seriously compromising the integrity of the buildings. The homeowners, who had paid anywhere between 3 to 4 million won, roughly 400,000 to 550,000 US dollars for their units, understood the severity of the situation. These modifications had put the entire structure at risk, but what could possibly justify such reckless actions? Despite the urgency, the developer, Changsha Real Estate Development Company, Limited, a subsidiary of China Resources Land, seemed determined to avoid responsibility. Xin's mum said in her video,
Later on, because someone was going to come investigate the issue, you shut down all 3 buildings' elevators without notifying the residents in advance, claiming maintenance, and left residents to climb stairs in the summer heat. Where is your conscience? Residents who hung protest banners in their homes found that they all mysteriously vanished overnight. We pay 600 yuan per month in management fees, yet the community gate access and surveillance systems are completely useless. Where is your service?
The homeowners were told their concerns were being reported to the Chamber of Commerce, but nothing substantial was done. On July 4, 2025, a team from Hunan University's civil engineering testing company, led by Professor Chen Dachuan, conducted an inspection and reported that the damaged beams were only secondary floor beams. According to Sina, a state-owned media outlet, Professor Chen went as far as saying, "These buildings won't collapse," which, of course, should be reassuring. However, he did admit that the secondary beams, which support 1/4 to 1/3 of the load, had been compromised. But not to worry, they would just reinforce them later. Sina reported that 100% of the inspected units showed damage to the beams, with over 90% units having exposed main rebars, many beams showing significant cuts in their stirrups, hoop reinforcements. In some cases, the beams were missing so much rebar that their ability to support the building's load had been severely compromised. Finally, on July 15th, the Housing Bureau offered an explanation that was so ridiculous it left everyone dumbfounded. The kitchen door dimensions were wrong. Instead of fixing the design flaw, the developers had chosen to cut into the structural beams. And once again, the Bureau insisted that these beams were just secondary floor beams. By July 18, 2025, Changsha Real Estate Development Company Limited dispatched a team from its headquarters to address the issue. And by July 21st, they issued a letter to homeowners announcing the formation of a special task force to assist the government with a full investigation. Despite these reassurances, The homeowners were far from convinced. They demanded a re-inspection by independent testing bodies, such as the National Quality Inspection Center, to verify the developers' and the Housing Bureau's claims. By July 25th, despite the developers' claims of coordination with government bodies, no meaningful action had been taken. The online reaction was, as expected, full of sarcasm and mockery. Netizens, no longer fooled by the endless reassurances, had long recognized the pattern. One user dryly pointed out after reading the test results, the testing agency said it wouldn't affect the overall structural safety. If they move in by themselves, I believe this test report. Another user didn't hold back, bluntly stating, the acceptance process is just a formality. In the comments section below Xinxin's mom's videos, one netizen, claiming to be a builder, was direct. You can't live there anymore. Repairing the beam now, that's just a way to fool the residents. The entire building is compromised. Another contractor weighed in, saying, the foundation alone costs over 100,000 yuan, $14,000 to resist earthquakes. If the load-bearing columns and beams above are damaged, it affects the entire structure. The most obvious sign? Leaking toilets. And guess what? Just days later, Xinxin's mom uploaded a video showing her toilet leaking. But that wasn't all. Another homeowner also shared a video, showcasing a severely leaking elevator and hallway. Another grim confirmation of the warning. In her latest video, Xinxin's mom expressed her heartbreak.
The truth is, our whole family bought this house full of hope, thinking that by the end of the year we could move in and celebrate the Lunar New Year in our new home. I had it all planned. We'd invite my family and my husband's family to celebrate together in our new place. But all of that has been completely ruined by something so shameless and unacceptable.
This Tofu-dreg building quality reminded Xinxin's mom and many netizens of a tragic incident that took place just a few years earlier, also in Changsha. On April 29, 2022, a self-built residential building in the Wangcheng district of Changsha collapsed, causing widespread devastation. The 5-story building, which had been illegally extended to 8 floors, collapsed without warning, killing 54 people and injuring 9 others. The rescue efforts, which continued for days, managed to save only 10 survivors. The last one was pulled from the rubble 131 hours after the collapse. The building's tragic end was caused by a mix of reckless construction, poor design, and negligence. The structure had been hastily extended without proper permits, and the foundation, weakened by persistent rainfall, was unable to support the added load. Authorities had ignored obvious signs of structural weakness, and the building was used for commercial purposes, all while residents and tenants turned a blind eye to the growing safety risks. In the aftermath, investigations pointed to the illegal construction as the main cause. The building's owner and several unqualified designers were later sentenced to prison, with sentences ranging from 2 to 12 years. In addition, 62 officials were punished for their role in failing to enforce building codes. The economic impact of the collapse was estimated at 90 million yuan, about $13 million. The issues with the cut beams in Changsha are just one example of a much bigger problem with poor construction across China. In April 2025, another video went viral, this time showing a country garden residential complex, where a strong wind blew off a piece of the exterior wall. Country Garden, owned by the Yang family, is one of China's biggest property developers, known for building projects in smaller cities. But earlier this year, many of their locations faced serious complaints about poor construction quality. From wind-tearing pieces of exterior walls to rainwater flooding elevator shafts, and even rusted steel beams just 2 years after moving in, the complaints have been piling up. In one case in 2023, cracks in subsidence forced 3,000 residents in Xinjin to evacuate their homes overnight. It wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a matter of safety. In November 2022, one buyer in Jiangsu's Country Garden was so overwhelmed by his situation that he tragically took his own life, jumping from the apartment he had spent years paying for, still without a legal title. This pattern of poor quality buildings isn't unique to Country Garden. Across China, many buyers fall for the promises of big developers, only to face the bitter truth later when their homes are unsafe or poorly built. The aftermath is often tragic. It's heartbreaking to think about the countless Chinese families who have had to endure Tofu-dreg building quality their entire lives. For many, their homes, the place where they should feel safest, have become ticking time bombs. These homes, built with subpar materials and careless construction, are now fragile, unsafe, and untrustworthy. Families who spent their life savings, even took out loans to secure a future, find themselves living in buildings that could collapse or deteriorate at any moment. But the worst part, the government, instead of stepping in to protect its citizens, remains indifferent. They dare to lie to the faces of Chinese people, claiming a complex with compromised beams on every floor is safe to inhabit. How can anyone expect people to believe a building with damaged structural beams is anything but a ticking time bomb? Let's look at what the experts really say. Raw engineering clearly explains. Columns and beams are two fundamental structural elements that are essential to stability. They support the weight of the building and create a safe load path, transferring the weight and forces applied to the structure of the building to the foundation and the ground. Without these critical components, the entire structure becomes unstable. These aren't just details. They are the backbone of any building. A 2024 study by Gala et al. On reinforced concrete beams pointed out something even more concerning. Defective beams, such as those lacking shear stirrups or steel bars, have less strength to handle shear forces, causing stress to build up in certain areas. This leads to cracks forming at lower loads and spreading easily, raising the chance of sudden, brittle failure compared to beams with proper reinforcement. So, when beams are cut or compromised, they don't just weaken, they become dangerous. The risk of sudden failure becomes a very real possibility, and it gets worse. According to the Structure Center, beams resist bending, slabs span between supports, columns carry axial and lateral forces. These members rely on their full cross-section for strength. Removing a part of the cross-section, however small, reduces their capacity. That means every time a beam is cut, even if it's just a small part, the entire capacity of the structure is weakened. We're not talking about a cosmetic issue here. We're talking about a serious threat to safety, with reduced strength across the entire building. Sadly, that's the reality many Chinese people face today. Deceived by lies, given false hope, and ignored by authorities who are supposed to protect them. They're left to deal with unsafe homes while the system does little to help. This is the painful truth they're forced to live with.